Your dream plot awaits for you at OMR, ECR and GST with Nama Family Group. Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs. Supreme Mobiles and Supreme Super Apple Days. Get instant discount up to 15,000 on iPhone.
So we're at Kiss Cafe in Kathiravan Adyar. This is KIS. Keep it simple. It's a good place to meet Varsha, the director of Bad Girl. And so congratulations on the NETPAC Award at Rotterdam. And more importantly, congratulations on that speech you made, Ponnuna oru poo oru pattini oru deivam, and that pretty much made people, and I was like, wow, that hasn't been said out loud in a long time. So why this title, Bad Girl? Did you want a title that would grab attention? What was the thing? Was it like, or was it because if people do certain things, they say, you're not a good girl, you're a bad girl. Is it that?
It's actually a bit of both. Grab attention, not so much actually. It is the most fitting title for the film because it's about a girl who feels like she's a bad person.
Oh, she feels like, okay.
She feels it, and like a lot of people around her make her feel that. And it's a pretty universal feeling. She comes to realize, over the course of time that pretty much everybody feels that way. That, they feel like they've done something wrong. And the world puts people through that. You're either that or you feel this weird moral superiority. So there's two types of people, right? So she is this kind of person. And it's the most fitting title for the story, and that's why I called her.
You went with
that,
it, right?
Yeah.
So before we go into the movie, I'm just a few questions about your AD experience. Do you remember the first day on the set as an AD?
I do. So I actually didn't know that I was going to be part of that film even. I got a call one day before they started shooting Udayam NH4. Vetrimaran sir was the scriptwriter and the creative producer for that film. Manimaran sir was the director. So when I landed on the set, I had no idea. I just told my parents, கூப்பிடுறாங்க பெங்களூர் போனோம் நான் இப்பவே bags pack பண்ணிட்டு கிளம்புறேன்.
How did they know that your name was on, like, what did you apply?
So I applied to Vetrimaran sir. I had applied to work as an AD with him, and they had a slot. They needed someone to take care of the heroine costumes, that
Lady
sort of a thing.
AD.
Yeah, they wanted a female AD. So
it's not called Lady AD anymore?
They tell me female, I don't know. It's
okay,
like,
no,
lady, no.
Yeah, no, that was a very, because it's rhymes, I guess. Anyway, yeah.
So I was that girl, and I landed up at the spot, and soon they realized I was not the person to take care of costumes because I'm not very big on those things. It's not at all my area of interest or expertise. I dress very poorly generally. So I landed there, and I was really bad on the first few days, and I didn't know, like, at home generally, especially when people talk about film related people, even if they're really much older, you call them amai vandane, like it's all, we always address people in singular.
Yeah.
So I thought it was okay, especially actors, we always at home, I had zero exposure to the industry, so I just landed at the spot, and I was taking care of background action. Siddharth sir was the hero then, so I was like, were you on Siddharth's right, come here. So were you on Siddharth's left, come here. I was doing that, and then Vetri sir was there the first few days of shoot. He came, he called me, Ngava abdintu, what are you doing? You're supposed to say artist, or you're supposed to refer to them by the character name. Don't say his name
or
out
say
loud.
Sir, I think.
Yeah. And that was the first time I realized, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but it was really fun, it was really exciting. And feel clear la panna sonna, I didn't even have the I thought I just generally had to clear the crowd. So ellaru poitu inde yogi I was just trying to clear people, and then I would realize the frame is here. I was clearing people behind the camera. So it was a mess, but it eventually got better. It was a lot of fun. The first day was the most exciting.
Right. So Udayam, then Visarane.
Correct.
And then?
Vadachennai.
Yeah. And then
I actually worked as a writing assistant to Dhanush sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this.
Wow. Cool. So when you're an AD, you learn two things, right? That is, one is the film specific technical stuff, which is like technique, how to make a movie, what to do, what not to do, like things like maybe what you think, but also in a bigger sense, right? The second thing is a cultural thing, which is like sir potukopono,
Yeah.
or how women are treated, or how many women are on the set, or one complaint I've particularly heard is how difficult it is for women to use a restroom, because especially when the set is like very very like in some interior somewhere, because there's no proper facility or something like that. Those are the cultural things that are there, right? Or even how maybe the other male ladies treat female ladies, or whatever it is. So when you became a director, did you say, as in terms of technique, these are the things I want to do or I will do in terms of film language, but in terms of cultural stuff, these are the things that will not happen on my set, or these are the things that I will not allow on my set? What are that?
Most definitely both of those things, but the cultural things I also so rendume I proved myself wrong in multiple either. So Vetri sir does a lot of coverage because he likes to have a lot of options. He figures out his movie on the edit table. So I was being a little cocky initially. So I'd be like, I know what I want. Na script la irukkiradhu mattum da close up mattum da edupen. And luckily my first schedule was really short. I only shot for 6 days in a school. Adikaprama, because I had to shoot during summer holidays. Of course, like when you don't have a lot of shots, when you do less coverage, a style is born out of that. When you have limited shots, that becomes very interesting film language also, as opposed to having a lot of options. But then when I wanted to play around with my footage, do something, explore something, that's also the portion where I had least amount of footage to actually explore in my edit table. So I realized at that point that I shouldn't have been so cocky. It's very helpful to do more coverage and get more shots, safety shots, especially when you're a first time filmmaker. It's very helpful because you think you know everything, maybe you don't. I don't know, to each their own, I guess.
Right.
Definitely I learned a few things there, and I also learned that in digital cinematography you can do so many things in post. You don't have to make extremely irreversible stylistic choices very early on in the film while you're shooting. You can, like, the possibilities are endless in post-production these days in color grade. So for instance, I used a pro mist filter, and later when I had to make some alterations, I realized that I just can't do them anymore because of some decisions I made during shoot. So lesson learned. But I also think it looks very cool and interesting because of those choices. So I don't regret any of that. And about the cultural changes I wanted to make, again, I was extremely ambitious, and I had a lot of like, my set will be very chill. There will be no hierarchy. I'm never going to yell at my ADs. I'm never going to be an abusive person. It's very idealistic, but a lot of it is not feasible. Because our examples, how we learn to be in a movie set, is based on how a movie set is. You can't change everything. You can't just change everything, right? So it was quite tricky, just striking that balance between not being someone who's, yelling all the time, and also like feeling pretty shitty about it, because that's not the person I wanted to be. But at the same time, I think I got some things right. Maybe I'll get some things right in my next movie. But in a Tamil cinema movie set, you have to yell to get things done. And going into this project, I really thought I would change that. I really thought, yen kathano nalla civil work pannalame appadinu. Things didn't pan out that way. It so happened that when I say, is this done? Is this done? Is this done? People didn't do things. Why is it not done? And it gets done. Yeah. I realized that that's the language that people responded to. I learned it the hard way, but ideally, in my from my next film, if I have also I worked with a very small AD team. There was just 3 people, and post-production I work with just one AD, Pavitra. So it was a very small AD team, which also meant a lot of stress because we also had scale. We had a lot of work to do.
Right.
So those were challenges that I faced. But again, culturally lots. But I did manage to accomplish a lot of things. I had a lot of women on the set, which I'm quite excited about. Again, didn't go as planned. I thought it would, not that I thought it would be some feminist utopia when you had women in the sets. Because again, it's complicated. I don't have examples of how it is to have I have never reported to a woman, right? I've not even seen women in authority in all my adult life because
Even
it's only
on
men.
the sets, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's only men, and it gets pretty heated on the sets because ivlo the call sheet, ivlo the hours irukku, and time is money, and you have to get shit done, and like it's a lot of work to be done. So it was quite tricky being, and it's. Also, you want to be more empathetic when you're working with women. You understand that they're tired, but you also want to get things done. So it was quite tricky, but when I was in that place, I had a lot of emotions about it. But now looking back, I really feel good about what we all did together as a team. It wasn't just me, right? Sure, I made the decisions,
Yeah.
but a lot of women and men came together to create a as healthy an environment as we could possibly have.
Right.
It wasn't always ideal, and I'm quite ashamed of the way I handled a lot of situations, and I hope to do better in my next film. I actually saw one interview of Pa Ranjit's when I was pretty low, feeling about it, where he spoke about how Tangalan shoot பண்ணும்போது he had to like put people through punishing circumstances, but that is the job.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me feel better about myself because sometimes you're looking for that, right? Just validation that you're not a really bad person.
Did you ever ask Vetrimaran why he never made a female-centric film?
No, especially not now. Earlier,
No, but because you've been with them for a while, so I'm just curious.
I have had several arguments with him about with a lot of dialogues that I found problematic or either. But I also, especially after I made this film, my male characters are pretty one-dimensional. I have written men the way that a guy would write a girl, right? Because they don't have the lived experience. And gender is one factor. Gender is not the only factor. I think it's people are naturally only capable of every character, the protagonist and the antagonist and all of the characters in between are different variations of, they're all like product of your brain, right? So it's you can't help it. You only know what you know, and you write based on your lived experiences and the knowledge that you've accumulated in all your life. So I don't hold it against any male filmmaker who's not made a feminist film or a chick flick or whatever, because they should make what they want. They should make what excites them.
Yeah.
But having said that, there's a lot of stuff that's just downright not okay. We should have conversations about that. But having said that, I don't think everyone's doing their best.
Okay.
I do think that maybe there are people who go out there and put really like venomous content with the intention to do it, and that's quite sad. But I think most people try their best, and with lots of artists you can see that arc, right? Like even with Vetri sir, I do see him trying to make his female characters a little different from with each film. It does change. I feel like.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of women, one of the things that we all face, okay, let's restrict this to maybe a middle class and an upper middle class background, because again, I can't talk for everyone, right? So see, when you're growing up, you're reading your Amachitra Kathas and your Chanda Mama, or maybe you're reading some, you're being told about the Ramayana, Mahabharata, whatever it is. It's like all those little stories that come your way, right, through whatever it is. You get a lot of characters that at that point you're like, oh, okay, this happened. Oh, okay, this happened, because it's just a story. But then as you start growing up, you're like, what, did Rama actually say Sita has to prove her purity when she came back from Ravana's thing? Like, that comes at a later stage, right? Or that ghastly Ahalya story where, Indra seduced her, but then her husband punished her by turning into a stone or whatever, and then Rama's feet touched her and she became whatever. And these are used as examples of how women, chastity, morality, this thing. I mean, of course, this knowledge comes much later. But for you, when was that conversion point where I'm sure you got a lot of received wisdom about, to use your own words, Ponuna Patini Devampu, whatever it is, and then at what point did you start breaking away and questioning, really, is this what I've been, told all along? What was that turning point?
When I was in college, I had absolutely no political awareness
I'm not, just to clarify, I'm not talking about feminism, politics. I'm talking about a personal thing itself, right? Like, how?
Yeah, so I look at political consciousness and political awakening within a person as an extension of having critical thought.
Right, okay, yeah.
Having any kind of critical thought is what makes you question the world around you, the environment around you, and people and their practices, and how much of it is how much of tradition is fair, how much of it is just. All of that happened to me much later in my life, so I look at all of that as one and the same. Human experiences are how do you detach that from politics? Everything what's personal is political, right? So I had absolutely no thoughts growing up. I was just like, one of the reasons why I wanted to write the character of Ramya the way that I have in school is just this feeling of being fuzzy, or like your brain, moolekku badala cotton vechi adicha madri. I just remember being zoned out all the time. Nothing interested me. Nothing really like, I was that person. I don't remember having any real thoughts. If everyone said something is good, I was like, yeah, that's fun. Let me do that. I don't even remember, having real actual taste. I was an Ajit fan because my brother and my cousin were Ajit fans. I don't know where my taste even come from. Maybe food is a little more, but even your palate is trained by what you eat early on.
Yeah.
So everything was borrowed. I think it's only much later that I actually started to discern.
Was it like after you became a filmmaker, like an AD?
An AD, yeah, but not even right after. It was pretty slow. The process was pretty slow. I remember very embarrassingly having very dumb conversations with other ADs who were some of them senior, some of them my age, but Vetri sir's office is one of those spaces where people are always talking, they're discussing movies, and I would have really stupid takes all the time, and looking back I recognize them for what they are. I don't know why people even put up with me back then, but they did, and I'm so glad they did. So the learning happened very, very slowly, and I don't remember at what point exactly. I don't know if there was.
So you don't know there was one turning point as such?
I don't think so.
It's a gradual thing.
Yeah, it was a very, very gradual thing. Because the thing about being stupid is that you don't even know that you don't have opinions. You think those are opinions, right? Yeah. Even people who have absolutely no idea don't have the self-awareness that they don't know what they're talking about. They're pretty sure that they know. So when you're that, maybe I still don't know some things, but I think I know them. Actually, no, that's not true. I think at this point I do know a little bit of myself, if not the world. I do think that's the thing about being a writer. I don't know if I've got a very good grip on the world outside, but I think I've introspected a lot, and I think that's when the learning started, when I started deep diving.
Right. So when you started out on this project, did anybody in your family or your surroundings, or the people that you've grown up with, the people from whom you got those borrowed ideas, did anyone say, why are you doing this? Is this much like the backlash that happened a little later to the teaser? Yeah. At that point they were like, why are you showing our community in this light, or what are you doing? Did any of those conversations happen?
Yeah, and I continue to have those conversations, and but I'm happy to have conversations because that's what we're trying to do, right? So I try to have even after I started work, even the films that I've worked on and the films I like to watch and the circle that I move around with, my family and my extended family, they have expressed a little bit of concern for my well-being, and whether it's very natural for people to condescendingly think that I don't know better, right? So there is a little bit of that, but I do think it comes from a good place. Yeah. Not all of it comes from with malicious intent, but my parents have always, for some reason, been extremely they're not they're quite conservative, but they've always given me the space to make mistakes. I do eventually have my way. It can't be fun for them, but for some reason they put up with it. So, and they've been extremely supportive. I guess my father thought it would eventually pass when I first started working as an AD. He thought I would eventually, adukapro there have been times where, like my aunt brought some idu to my mom saying, or josir kitta pone, ippo kalyanam pannati adukapro kalyaname agadu, andha marilam there was some sambhavam that happened at home. But my mother's also been this person who absorbs all. I'm sure a lot of people have given them grief about the way that my parents have raised me, especially in the recent past. But my parents have just absorbed all of that and not let it come to me at all. Like,
that's super.
I'm quite grateful. I've never really said this to them. We don't communicate. We're not that kind of family. But I'm quite grateful to them for that. And but I also have really, like, my cousins are being so sweet. They don't entirely understand it, but they reach out to me like, "Are you okay?" Even if they disagree with me, they know not to say it to my face because it would really hurt me, because they know I am waging a war against a lot of people and I'm getting a lot of hate online. They can see that I'm quite distressed. So they've been very sweet and they've told me, hey, are you okay? I want you to know that I'm proud of you. And they've been very sweet about it, and there are extended family members who are reaching out to my mom and telling her, you should really be proud of your daughter. There's a lot of stuff going on, but so that really helps. The fact that people are reaching out and not making this out to be something super weird is helpful, but there's a lot of bad stuff also. Luckily, I have a lot of cushioning. Nobody brings it to me. Or I cut out people who give me grief. I just stop talking to people who are not.
Right. And I think you made a very important point in that most of them do it out of concern.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thing, because actually, they really don't understand you.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about you, I'm like anybody, right? It's like when I say you, I mean a generalized you.
Yeah.
They don't really get you. Like, so I used to get, like, for example, why are you asking why for every question? It's like, why can't you just do something? It's like, why do you have to have a question like for everything? It's like, why why does everything have to have an answer? Like, this has been done for like so long or whatever it is. So many things, right? But they really they don't get you, I think. But I think it comes from a place of concern, because they're like, isn't it easier to just toe the line and do what's been done, and instead of trying to do something different? Like, for something as different as like me dropping engineering and coming to whatever I'm doing, even that, like, it was like for a while it was as if my house was like somebody died. Just like, the atmosphere was like, but anyway, it's not about me. But yeah, that's the thing. It's sort of concerned rather than like some very horrible, how dare you do this kind of thing. So when you see, when you got your awareness, right, over a gradual period of time, as you said, when you saw older films, and I really want your answer about this. Did you begin seeing them in a different light? Because there are two instances I'll mention. One is when one of my students said, have you seen do you really like The Godfather? And I said, wow, it's one of my favorite films. It's one of those films that I can never stop watching. And but she said, don't you find it really strange that the women characters have no agency? I had never thought about it like that. I had an answer for her that this is a very male world and it's a very patriarchal world. So hence the last shot of, you've seen The Godfather? Yeah. So like just the last shot of, the door shutting, because they shut out women. But for the first time, somebody made me look at it like, and this is a very young girl. She's like, I've seen it so many times and I never looked at it like the women in that film have no agency. The second thing was when, I think, I don't know whether it was a discussion or whether it was on my blog, I don't know what it was, but somebody said Mohan in Maunaragam is actually a very toxic character, because he doesn't let, instead of just saying, okay, you don't want to be in this marriage, just go, he kind of kills her with kindness and makes her come back to him. So that's a huge red flag and stuff like that. Again, what you had been just seeing as a story, as something that played out with the gender dynamics of that 1986, 87, whatever it is, suddenly is being seen as something different. So when you look at older films, do you have you found yourself re-evaluating some of them according to, like, and can you give me an example?
So this is actually like also connecting your earlier statement about, are people really like putting in a lot of effort to thinking differently? I think human beings are inherently pretty lazy and pleasure seeking, and we do what comes naturally and easily to us. So I think we just choose to do what comes very naturally to us. And I think Coppola Senior told the story that came most naturally to him. And there's Sofia Coppola who's telling the stories that I would want to watch. And the truth is, I haven't revisited a lot of, as much as I love The Godfather, I haven't revisited it in so long, not because, it's against my politics, I'm not going to watch it. It just so happens that I don't feel like it. If it's playing on TV, and we hardly do any chance viewing anymore because
everything is...
It's always choice, right? After OTTs and that sort of a thing. So on TV, it's on demand now. So I just find myself not watching those films. And I don't have to reevaluate them. It's just that it doesn't excite me because that film was not made for me. It was not made about me. And I think everyone should just like make whatever comes naturally to them, and people are going to watch. The challenge here is that, and I also think it's a little like, I don't think Francis Ford Coppola could have written a movie about Kay Adams, I don't think he could have done that. And
do you think he couldn't have done that, or did he say the story is not about that? And the story...
Both.
Yeah, I think, isn't it that...
And the reason why he did this, made the movie that he did make, is because that is the story that excited him. And everyone should just do whatever excites them.
Right. So I'm not going in this like, do you consciously reevaluate? I'm not telling that.
Yeah.
Where I was coming from is that there have been movies that, like I'm seeing with a new light, even if my own opinion about it is not, because I think every film is basically somebody in some point of time telling the story that they wanted to tell in the most, hopefully, creative way possible, most artistic way possible, most honest way possible. Which also means that a lot of exclusion is going to happen simply because everyone's brought up in a particular environment, and they have cultural forces acting on them, all kinds of things, right? So I don't think, like you said earlier, I think there's no right or wrong. That's in some other context you just said right? It's like, I don't think anything is right or wrong, but I was just curious whether you found yourself, just like you said, like we were talking about values that we later questioned, were there films that you later questioned? It's like
Sure. Like a lot of films that I thought I liked, I just stopped liking, and like I just wouldn't go back to. And like I also, again, it's not even about the films, it's about us as viewers, as audience, as consumers, right? It's at some point, I think this dissonance pretty much happened when during lockdown I was just watching whatever I felt like watching, because you weren't watching things with other people anymore. And nobody cares what you're watching, everyone's just watching stuff. So I was just watching chick flicks all the time, I was just watching rom-coms all the time, like human dramas all the time. So at that point I realized that it didn't, all of these stories about dudes shooting each other were not relevant to me at all, and it didn't excite me.
So you don't like to go to, let's say, another world and just be there for some time and then come back to your own world?
Yeah, just not this world. Just not a world where people are like killing each other. It doesn't apply to me in any way, shape or form. And like, like for instance, this one time, the fight sequences were too long. We were just having some script discussion. Someone told me that, was it Vijay-Kant? I'm not sure if I'm doing a very good job recalling this incident, but like Vijay-Kant apparently said, ellaru paattukku na velila damadika poiduvanga, emotional scene na poiduvanga, but nobody walks out during an action sequence. But I'm that person. I walk out when I switch off. I cannot watch an action. Even if it's like a really well choreographed action sequence, and I'm, as a filmmaker, supposed to appreciate, all the crazy ways they've shot it and like where they've put the camera, which is creativity again. And I know I should be interested, but how do you tell your brain to force your brain to be interested in something that it's simply not?
That's interesting. Because for me, I think being interested in an art form is being interested in the stuff that you like and the stuff that you don't like, simply because everything is part of that thing.
Correct.
But it's
like lots of people told me the new Top Gun movie, I don't know, was it 7 or 4? I don't even know. The new Top Gun was
Mission Impossible you're talking about.
No, the one with Tom Cruise in it. See, I don't know.
Both are Tom Cruise, So
Okay, there was one really cool sequence in an airplane. I don't know. I lose track of these things, but there was that one. That's really how ignorant I am about a certain
yeah.
class of films, right? I just tune out. So someone told me you should watch it as a filmmaker. You should know because it's like a cinematic masterpiece. I'm like, I don't care. And even if I didn't watch Mad Max Furiosa, and it has a woman in it. So they were like, oh, you're a feminist, right? You're supposed to like it. No, it does not interest me. I mean, the first part really, I liked it. I watched it, and I just didn't feel like watching something with elaborate chase sequences and action sequences. It's just, even if it's visually amazing and it has a lot of depth in storytelling, it's just not my cup of tea.
No, again, I was only looking at, maybe that you watch Furiosa, you're not interested in the general stuff, but maybe there's a great camera move that you can pick up on, or some, that's you, content-wise, do you think it's good to remain in a zone? Again, no right or wrong answer. No, nothing is right or wrong. But do you think it's good to say, I will only watch this particular kind of film that applies to my set of beliefs? Or is it interesting to kind of explore something else that is completely antithetical to what you believe in, but at the same time, you don't have to subscribe to it. It's a movie. It's 3 hours. You watch it, you come back, and then, but maybe that's given you a slightly different perspective of something.
Sure.
Again, yeah.
Sure. So a lot of things, I'm not a very rigid person. Actually, I don't even know. It's such a decisive statement. But I would. But cinema is it's my bread and butter, right? So I guess I don't want to watch something that won't interest me, and that would just be really depressing to look at something. And I have had to do that quite a bit, right?
Seeing a lot of movies you didn't want to see.
Yeah. And it just really it's so boring. It just kills all of the joy in your life. So it's very hard to do something that doesn't excite you. But having said that, maybe it is true that if I watched Furiosa, I would pick up something, and I guess we'll never know what I'm missing out on.
Sure.
Your dream plot awaits for you at OMR, ECR and GST with Nama Family Group. Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs. Supreme Mobiles and Supreme Super Apple Days. Get instant discount up to 15,000 on iPhone.